This could be research criticism, and today I wanted to look at the myth of prediction. Right? In that we are living in a world in which we have so much information, we are putting so much faith in algorithms to sort that information, that there are now data scientists, there are futurists, there are experts who are suggesting that if you have enough information, you can predict the future. This is a field called predictive analytics. It's a subset of data science. And for the last 10 years, it has been a booming industry. They've been making millions, if not billions of dollars with the bold claim, the brag, that they can predict what people want before people know that they're going to want it. This is a lot of what programmatic advertising is based on. It's a lot of what the advertising industry, as we know it, is based on. And the science is starting to catch up, and the science is calling them out as bullshit. That, you know what, maybe prediction is a myth. Or if it's not a myth, maybe it's not as simple and clear cut as we thought. And so that's why today I want to take a little bit to look at this myth of prediction. Our good friend, Clive Thompson, who I encourage y'all to follow on Twitter. He is an author and a journalist and writer for all sorts of publications. He shared this article that he didn't write, but I thought his tweet was worth using as a kickoff point. An essay notes the drift in many precincts. Technologists, psychologists, philosophers, neuroscientists are starting to see the mind as essentially a prediction machine. But is that view true? This essay argues no. And it's dangerous that we think that way. So this is an article published in Aeon magazine. The problem with prediction. Cognitive scientists and corporations alike see human minds as predictive machines. Right or wrong, they are changing how we think. The drama. So I skipped the first paragraph, but here I'm going to read the second because it gives us a bit of historical context. Facebook and its peers are not the only entities devoting massive resources towards understanding the mechanics of prediction. At precisely the same moment in which the idea of predictive control has risen to dominance within the corporate sphere, it's also gained a remarkable following within cognitive science. According to an increasingly influential school of neuroscientists who orient themselves around the idea of the predictive brain, the essential activity of our most important organ is to produce a constant stream of predictions. Predictions about the noises we'll hear, the sensations we'll feel, the objects we'll perceive, the actions we'll perform, and the consequences that will follow. Taken together, these expectations weave the tapestry of our reality. In other words, our guesses about what we'll see in the world become the world we see. Almost 400 years ago, with the dictum, "I think, therefore I am," René Descartes claimed that cognition was the foundation of the human condition. Today, prediction has taken its place. As the cognitive scientist Anil Seth put it, "I predict, therefore I am." And let's take a moment to let that sink in. Because there are multiple ways to interpret that argument. Somehow the logic we find animating our bodies is the same one transforming our body politic. The prediction engine, the conceptual tool used by today's leading brain scientists to understand the deepest essence of our humanity is also the one wielded by today's most powerful corporations and governments. How did this happen, and what does it mean? Now, before we answer that question, before we read on, allow me to offer a provocation. And actually, ironically, in our next segment, I'm going to contradict myself. But hey, this is Twitch. I can do that. So allow me to start by saying, what if I told you the future never exists? We only ever experience today, a series of todays. Tomorrow will come, but when tomorrow comes, it's going to be today. So all that life is a series of todays, and the future is just a political construct. The future is just something that we create in our imagination as a roadmap, as a way to try to help us travel to a today that we want to experience, right? In theory, we want there to be a today where we're happy. And if you're not happy today, then you imagine a future in which you are happy, and hopefully that future helps you experience a today in which you are happy. So if you think about the future as an exercise in your imagination, as a roadmap to try to get you somewhere that you want to be, well, then the future is a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. That the more we focus on our future, the more we imagine our future, the greater the likelihood that that future is going to take place. And so that's partly why I predict and therefore I am. Or I imagine a future and magically, in imagining that future, it comes to take place. That's part of why throughout history there have been prophets. These prophets are just people with active imagination, and perhaps they're also stubborn, so they maintain that imagination in spite of naysayers, and as a result, they are able to enact a self-fulfilling prophecy because they create a roadmap in their head, a path to get to a destination that they would like to achieve. And that is both the potential, but also the danger of prediction. That we could use all the data in the world to imagine any future we want. And the more that we imagine that future, the more that that future is going to happen. Not because it was predicted, but because we focus on it. Now, when I learned how to drive a motorcycle, they called this target fixation. That one of the things they taught us in motorcycle school was that you want to look to where you want to be and not to where maybe your motorcycle is going. So when you head into a turn, don't look over the side of the road because then you'll go over the side of the road. No, turn your head and look around the corner in the turn because then you'll take the motorcycle around the corner and around the turn. And so the same thing applies to the technologies of prediction, right? Target fixation. There is so much data in our world that like a mirror, like a pond, like a magic mirror, you can look into that data and see anything you want. You could construct an algorithm that will create a filter bubble that will create any reality that you desire. And in that sense, what we have is a self-fulfilling prophecy. That predictive algorithms offer self-fulfilling prophecies. And in a narcissistic culture, a self-fulfilling prophecy would be quite appealing. a lot of people would appreciate the opportunity to have such a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, I just want to verify that we are still on the air. My internet connection has been having some trouble, but I want to read the last few paragraphs of this article that looks at the dangers of predictive machines. The bulk of the article has dealt with some of the stuff that I've talked about so far, but I thought the conclusion was really quite powerful. How we see ourselves matters. As the feminist scholar Donna Haraway explained, science and technology are human achievements in interaction with the world. But the construction of a natural economy according to capitalist relations and its appropriation for purposes of reproducing domination is deep. Human beings aren't pieces of technology, no matter how sophisticated. But by talking about ourselves as such, we acquiesce to the corporations and governments that decide to treat us this way. When the seers of predictive processing hail predictions as the brain's defining achievement, they risk giving groundless credibility to the systems that automate that act, assigning the patina of intelligence to artificial predictors, no matter how crude or harmful or self-fulfilling their forecasts. They threaten to tacitly legitimize the means by which predictive engines mold and manipulate the human subject, and in turn, they encourage us to fashion ourselves in that image. Seth wrote that the perception will always be shaped by functional goals, perceiving the world and the self not as it is, but as it is useful to do so. So long as it goes on, we must ask, what if the functional goal of our attempts to scientifically perceive the human mind now? Is it still rooted in a genealogy of prediction and control? Are we shoveling more of ourselves into the mouth of the machine just to see what it churns out? On whose authority and for whose benefit and to what end?